white people are told by the white supremacists, those white people who believe in white supremacy, to believe in white supremacy and to practice white supremacy. And it has nothing to do with how much money you have or what kind of shack you live in or what kind of mansion you live in. If you're a white supremacist, you are a member of a world army. And in that army, you have people who have rank, and you have people who are considered to be kind of low in rank, and people in high in rank, but you're still in the same army. And this is the way it has to be looked at if you're going to be realistic about what is the system of white supremacy. What is it really? And how does it work? What is the structure of it? So there's no such thing as a poor white person in the system of white supremacy, if that white person embraces the ideology of white supremacy. That itself makes that white person rich in that white person's mind. Because that person, and some of them have said it, I might be barefoot, but I'm not one of you people. I'm not one of you people at all. I don't care what kind of college you went to. I don't care if you are like that President Obama, that black person that other white people allowed to be where he is. My brothers and sisters, they allowed him to be that. And even though I'm barefoot and I don't fly around in airplanes, I'm still better than he is. Why? Because I'm a white man, that's why. And that's one thing you people can't get through your thick skulls. That's the way we see the world. But you don't see the world the way that we see the world. And so that's why you're in the shape that you're in. Because I have the potential for going where I want to. The only reason I'm up in these hills is because this is where I choose to be. One of the main reasons being I choose to be here, even though I'm barefoot, is to be away from you. Because I don't want you up here with me. And this is one place where you are not likely to come. And I'm down with that. You don't understand our thinking at all, mister. With your black PhD, Harvard education, you don't understand the fundamentals of this world, and that is one fundamental, and that is the system of white supremacy. You are baffled by it, and we like to keep you that way. The white supremacist mindset is not about whether white people suffer. It's whether white people are dominant over non-white people. See, the victims do not understand that at all. We don't understand that type of thinking. But it's a very peculiar way of thinking and a very powerful way of thinking. This question is often asked to me, well, white people kill each other and whatnot. You better believe they do. But look at it like this. It's like two brothers running a grocery store, both of them white. And there is a black person that works in the grocery store. His name is Sam. Take that for an example. He works back in the back stacking goods for the grocery store. The two brothers get into a knockdown, drag-out fight up in front of the store. In fact, one of the brothers calls on Sam to come and help him beat up the other brother. And then, after it's all over, the two white brothers, both of them white supremacists, they shake hands and they say, okay, did I teach you your lesson or not? And the other one says, well, I guess you did. But maybe if we have a dispute next time, I'll beat you. And then they both turn around and look at Sam and say, all right, Sam, it's all over, get back to work. Now, if you look at it worldwide in just that simplistic term, you will understand more about white supremacy than you did before. What they are saying is, you black people are my prisoners. You're my slaves. You have never gotten out of slavery because you're under the system of white supremacy. It's just more sophisticated now. It's just another racism is a form of slavery. That's all it is. What is slavery? Slavery is mistreating people in a way and in a sophisticated form, if it's sophisticated slavery, that they don't know what to do about it. Slavery is nothing but a form of mistreatment. Subjugation and mistreatment. Domination, those two elements, and mistreatment. You dominate the person that you are mistreating, which means you dominate them in all of the areas of activity, including sex. And you also dominate them in the first area of activity, economics, how they use their time and energy. And in the second, education. So you tell a black person, you will announce to the world yourself that black schools are inferior, or that the education that black people are getting is an inferior education. Then you jump to labor, one of the areas of activity, and say, you're not educated, so therefore you can't work here. You don't have an education. Well, you don't have an education because you've already declared that the schools that you go to is inferior. You've already told the world that. So therefore, you got an inferior education. So when you come and look for a job, you're not qualified for the job. You can't go into the labor market because your education is inferior, which means by proxy, you're inferior in doing anything of constructive value. So now, you're going to have a baby. Now watch this now. You're going to have another baby, and you're not going to have a job because I'm not hiring you on a job without an education. And I'm going to see to it you don't have an education because I never straighten out the school system. I've been arguing about the school system, about who's black and who's white, and who will go to what school, and how much money you will pay to go to school to get a so-called education. All right? Now you're going to have a baby on top of it without my authorization? I don't think so. So what I'll do, since you can't sustain yourself and support yourself and your baby, then I'm going to see to it you can't have no babies. Now how about them apples? And that's the correct thing for me to do, because I've cut you off from all resources where you can justify having a baby. Not only that, when it comes right down to it, as you get huffy about it, you can't even justify your existence, because you're not supposed to be walking around on my planet with no education, don't have no job, and I'm not going to give you one, and I'm not going to allow you to make one for yourself. And you think you're going to have a baby on my planet, on my watch? No, I'm going to have to tailor, because that's what they're doing now. I call it racial population tailoring confusion. I've been calling it that for years. That's one of their 6 strategies. So they are tailoring the populations of the non-white people, because they're forcing them into an economic situation where they can only have so many babies. The white supremacists are correct about that. There are some people who run around in, I recently read something about some people in the Amazon, I believe, in what they call the jungle. I call it the forest. Mm-hmm. But they have babies all over the place. It's one right after another. And some of them die of what you call disease or natural causes and all like that. Right. But the females keep having them. But what do they have? Because the white supremacists allow them to have it, by the way. They too are under white supremacy. But on account of their primitive conditions, and that goes back thousands of years, and that's all they are used to, they can have unlimited babies because they're all going to be self-sustaining. That's the key. We're in an environment where the white supremacists will tell us, get an education and get a job, then they'll seal off the means by which you get either. And if a few black people seem to really want to get educated and don't give up on it, then what have they been doing in the last 15 or 20 years? They've been going up on what? The price of getting the education, knowing full well that your grandmother ain't got that kind of money, because that's who you're going to be dependent on. You're just out of high school. You're going to depend on your grandmother, your mother, your sister, and your father who's looking for a job and gave up on it because he can't get one. So now you get into a school and the tuition just keeps going up and up and up and up. When here in the Northwestern Hemisphere, there were a lot of black people who had dishwashing jobs but went to college. They were Pullman Porter's children who went to college. They weren't making a fortune, but they could at least get in some type of college. The white supremacists looked at that, say, we're getting too many educated black people here. How do we stop them from getting an education? Go up on the tuition. Hey, that's a no-brainer. We'll tell them in order to get, even walk in this classroom, I mean, hey, you got to be talking about at least $10,000 just to walk in and sit down. You haven't even been taught anything yet. But just to walk in and sit down, that's $10,000 right off the top. You black people, if you got it, as your grandmother got it, she's scraping together her little change and pennies and got her little coins in the handkerchief that she's been saving from that maid job till she got bad feet and whatnot, and that hospital job she had. I mean, now she can't help you. Nobody can help you because we got it rigged so nobody can help you. So now you got to drop out and look for a job. And we don't have a job for you because you don't have an education. See how they got that thing rigged? I'm telling you, these people are the shrewdest people that the world has ever seen. The people of the Roman Empire would be applauding, saying, boy, hey, they outdid us.
When we took over the world, we decided to use the most dangerous weapon of all to subjugate the darker peoples of the planet. We used a combination of white supremacy and religion to mindfuck these people into complete submission. If a robber breaks into your house, rapes your family, kills your mother and father, then tells you that in order to go to heaven, you have to worship as God. If someone did that to me, then said that to be born again, I had to worship as God, I'd kill the bastard right on the spot. But you black people seem to have no problem worshiping the God of your enemies. Even worse is the fact that for all the praying that you have done, it seems like the God of the white man is just as racist as we are. Anytime you start believing in the God of your enemy, it pretty much means you're a complete idiot and a pussy, who is too far gone to confront his adversary.
That's what they have set up. That's what they have in mind. So you turn the people and non-white people under the system of white supremacy are supposed to be monsters and monstrosities. Now, what's a monster? Just like a zombie, like a Frankenstein. And a monstrosity, and because it's just two types of people, victims of racism, and that's monsters and monstrosities. The monsters are the people who are roaming the street looking for somebody to rob, looking for somebody to carjack, and all like that. That's when I've turned into a monster. All right, now the other option I have is to be a monstrosity. Now, monstrosity is what I am, Neely Fuller. I'm a monstrosity because the white supremacists don't allow you to be anything else under their system. Now, what's a monstrosity? A person who does things and it looks like what they're doing is making sense, but what they're doing is really supporting the system of racism, but doing it in a refined way. The monster is not doing it in a refined way. These are the people who are going to prison, filling up the prisons for gangbanging, for carjacking, for robbery, for home invasion, they call it, and all like that. Things like that. I mean, brute force, walking the street cursing people out, on the cell phone, just using every type of curse word that they ever heard. Try to put it in that conversation. Try to squeeze it in there some kind of way. Because, you're just, and letting everybody know that you're doing it by talking loud while you're doing it, walking down the street with a cell phone, and MF this, and the B word, and every kind of word that you ever heard in the English language in the Northwestern Hemisphere, that you can crowd into that. It's just one answer to all three questions. In order to maintain the system of white supremacy. These are necessary things. Cause confusion in what? All areas of activity. Because like I said earlier in this program, when people are confused, they have to depend on people who are not confused. So the white supremacists use language to confuse people all the time, every day. You can't buy a car or buy a house without being confused. You can't do anything if you're a person of color anywhere in the world under the system of white supremacy without some kind of confusion being handed to you on a silver platter. See, the platter will be beautiful, the thing that they handed to you in, but they keep that. And whatever was on that platter is loaded with poison. All right? And the poison is designed to do what? Confuse the mind. That's the kind of poison they put out. And they do it mostly by talking. That's why the people who are called in the Northwestern Hemisphere years ago, the people who were designated as called red people, people of color, by the white supremacists, those people said what about the white supremacists? They speak with forked tongue. Say one thing, mean another. If you listen to them, and they keep talking and whatnot, they will talk you out of house and home. They're expert talkers. Like I sometimes call it Pocahontasism. And if they can't talk to one black person, they'll talk to another. They'll try to find the weakest one. Their record shows this. And this is not anything that Neely Fuller is saying, except I'm repeating what was taught to me. By whom? Directly, indirectly, by people who believed in white supremacy. Many of them. I won't say all, but I'll say the most powerful and smartest ones. They taught me about what? The Indian maiden called Pocahontas. And say, you read this, boy, and you learn it. What we did to people of color, along with what we did to you. Read this. And even though you're reading it, and I'll tell you about it, I told you about your slave history because I got control of all the books. So, you couldn't learn it any other way. I killed off the people who were actually, the first ones. And so I inherited you. You are the illegitimate offspring. That's what the white supremacists tell us every day. You are my illegitimate offspring because I killed off your parents. I killed off the parents of all of the non-white people on the planet until they did what? Until their offspring learned my ways. But I will only teach them enough of my ways to their own detriment.
Nigga,
I'll teach them how to fight each other and all of that. I won't teach them anything that makes them more powerful than me or as powerful as I am. Because I don't believe in justice. I believe in dominating and mistreating people. That's why I'm a white supremacist. Domination and mistreatment of people. That's what white supremacy means. It doesn't mean just, I'm trying to, save myself as a white person, as a species and all like that. That's what they'll say. But see, no one was chasing them down, insisting that you give your woman to me. The white supremacists were doing that to other people, chasing other people all over the place and saying, give your women to me. I'll take them. And don't you touch mine, but I will take all of yours and run through every one of them that I can and produce offspring and then make slaves out of them and have them confused because I will always tell them that some of you are my offspring and get you to fight the other ones, the light skin against the dark skin, and come up with all different kind of religions and have you fighting about that when I am the most powerful of all religions. There's no religion more powerful than the religion of white supremacy. Now, a lot of people will say, well, where'd you get that from, Fuller? I had to come up with that one because that's the truth. Compare any religion, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, Confucianism, Hinduism with the religion of white supremacy, there's absolutely no comparison. There's never been a religion as powerful as the religion of white supremacy.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger. I am the danger.
Sure, because they set it up and they know what's going to happen. They know that people are going to get incensed and whatnot, and somebody, the way that they will put it is, oh, you took the law in your own hands. See what I mean? But they will make sure that the setting is such that no white people are involved. See, that's the key. You look around and say, who's involved in all this crack house and whatnot? And that, I got 16 people together from the neighborhood, and we went down there and said, we got to put this crack house out of business. And we wound up in a big shootout. I mean, you have a half-a-day shootout down there. I mean, so bodies all over the place. And no, now, that's just not the end of it. That would work fine out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like in the days of what they call the frontier and the Wild West. I mean, you just have the OK Corral situation, and you just got dead bodies, and whoever came out on top won. Mm-hmm. And that would be the end of that. But the world is not run like that. All of a sudden, you haven't seen these white faces before, but you're going to see plenty of them now. You're going to see plenty of them now. They don't live nowhere around there. But all of a sudden, they're going to show up with guns and whatnot and say, what's going on here? Now, I got all these dead bodies around here. I mean, they're all black dead bodies. I mean, and when you say you're straightening out the neighborhood, wait a minute. What neighborhood? You say, my neighborhood. And they say, you don't own a neighborhood. I own neighborhoods, boy. I own all the neighborhoods all over the world. You don't have any say-so about anything. You say, but I'm protecting myself. You don't have any duty to protect yourself. I protect you. Say, yeah, but you didn't protect me and whatnot. Hey, I decide when you're going to get protected, okay? You're always dealing with me, boy. Get that in your thick skull. You're always dealing with me. You're not dealing with anybody else but me. Now, catch my drift? It's like the scene in, this has been done among white people, so they know about this. The scene in Godfather 1, when Michael Corleone showed up at the hospital and ran up and down the corridors and say, where are all the people supposed to be protecting my father? Mm-hmm. Where are the people supposed to be protecting my father? They know that people have made threats against him. Nobody's here, just a nurse. And so he stood outside, and the people who came to kill him, they saw that they might be going up against some vigilantism here, so they took off. But then, what happened? McCluskey shows up. Say, I thought I had all you guinea hoods locked up. And what are you doing around this hospital? Get out of here. And then he broke his jaw. Mm-hmm. And he said, I came to protect my father. Well, you're a law enforcement officer. Why aren't you protecting my father? He said, look, don't tell me my business. See, so in the world of white supremacy, they understand that principle very well. So the white supremacists will plant a crack house in a neighborhood that they intend to cause black people to move again. See, one of the major strategies of the white supremacists on this planet is, like you learn in Shane, keep them squatters moving. Don't ever let them have a stable neighborhood anywhere. Put a crack house in that neighborhood. Allow that crack house to flourish so that everybody will panic when they have no protection and run. And then we take over the whole neighborhood and gentrify it again. And then when they go wherever they're going to the next neighborhood, after 10 years, we start the same thing all over again. Keep them squatters moving. That's the strategy. It's evil. And it's all them. It's nobody but them. You have to rid this entire planet of the system of white supremacy. But you can start simply by pointing out that's where the problem is. The problem isn't with the drug dealers and all like that. They're no problem. They can swat them like a fly. The white supremacists know that. They're the ones who give them the drugs. They're the ones who haul it in here. Black people don't know anything about manufacturing anything. All they know is somebody gives them something and say you can make some money and you can show off and you can buy some cars and run them down the street showing off to your friends, which is the black mentality. They know us better than we know ourselves. That's why they can manipulate us to do anything, mostly destructive, almost always destructive, bottom line destructive. That's all black people are supposed to be ever doing on their own is something destructive. And the white supremacists are behind it all. And call it that. That's the first step. If you want to do something about it, call it what it is. System of white supremacy.
But that doesn't
They'll
stop
say,
it.
oh, you're talking about the Ku Klux Klan. No, I'm not talking about any Ku Klux Klan. I'm talking about the entire system of government. Put the label on it that you should have. The system of white supremacy is the name of the only government on the planet. They are to blame for everything that non-white people are doing that shouldn't be done because they are the only people that control or tell or educate the non-white people of this planet. Let's tell the truth about it. Now, I'm either telling the truth or I'm saying something false. If you go to school, they tell you what's going to be in the books. Is my book in the school?
No.
No. Because it tells you about how the white supremacists operate. That's why. They're not supposed to talk about that. We're not supposed to be talking about what I'm doing right now. So the question might be raised, why do the white supremacists allow me to talk like I'm talking? They are very intelligent. What they do is say, who's listening? So when they see that nobody's listening, nobody's using the term white supremacy, system of white supremacy, it's all the fault of the white supremacists, since nobody's saying that in one voice, in a loud voice, where it bounces off the walls everywhere, in every place, in every office, in every factory. The system of white supremacy is what's in place, the only government in the world. Nobody's saying that, but maybe Neely Fuller and a few other oddballs. So as long as nobody's paying attention, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, because they're not even identifying the source of the problem. They're saying, well, this committee this, or this gang this, or it's the Crips and the Bloods, and and so if we can just get rid of them, the world will be a better place. No, they only exist on account of the system of white supremacy manufactures a system where it does exist. They know exactly what they're doing. Manufactures the drugs and the 9mm that show up with the drugs.
So all
We
this
didn't have the 9mm all over the neighborhood and the assault rifles and whatnot until the drugs showed up. And the drugs showed up with the guns. We started off with this program talking about guns.
Mm-hmm.
The drugs and the guns showed up among black people, put in black people's hands after when in the Northwestern Hemisphere? After the 1968 riots. That's when. They say that we don't, if black people are going to be out here with guns and whatnot in the street and tearing up things, we're going to control the guns that we give them by controlling their minds. And we'll use the drugs to control their minds, and the drugs will automatically lead them to slaughter each other. It'll also disrupt neighborhoods. It'll disrupt the schools. It'll disrupt everything that they try to do. And we'll sit back over on the other side of the fence and laugh about the whole mess, because they haven't figured out yet who's pulling the strings. If we can find out, of course, that's the first thing we do. We ask them to find out who the people are who are doing it. And if they say they can't find out, then we simply say, I have no reason to believe you. Because these are the people that live next door to you. These are the people who play golf with you. What do you mean you can't find out? The people who run the world, and you are sitting at the table with them, and you don't know anything about them, and they are allowing this to happen, a crack house on my corner, and you are telling me I can't do anything about it because I'd be violating the law if I do, that the drug dealers can stand their ground, and I can stand my ground if I can find out where my ground is. But I don't have any ground. I certainly don't have any grounds to go down there and do anything about it, because then you will lock me up faster than you'll lock them up.
Now,
Tell the truth, sir. white males have always mistreated all females and taught black males and encouraged black males to mistreat black females. All right? So females all over the planet, all of the females all over the planet have been grossly, horrendously mistreated and are being mistreated even as we speak. I mean, that mistreatment is not isolated and whatnot. It's just people just mention it every now and then. But it's 24/7. It goes with the system of government that we have, the world government. It is okay to mistreat females, whether you're white or non-white, except if you're non-white, you better be very careful about mistreating a white female, all right? Now you can get into serious trouble. But for a white male to mistreat a white female, that's considered okay among the white supremacists themselves. I mean, that's almost like a handshake deal.
Wow.
And they have always done that. All right? At the same time, they will glorify them, all right, when it comes to other people. But when in the house themselves, they will kick that black female around, that white female around. White men will do that.
Yes,
People
sir.
who have worked in white people's houses have found that out. Particularly back in the old days when
Yes,
you
sir.
had a lot of maids.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes the maid has to come to the rescue of the lady of the house, you might say,
Wow.
and say, you know, Mr. So-and-so, you shouldn't talk to her like that. I mean, she didn't do nothing. She didn't mean no harm and all like that. I mean, you know, the black maid has to intervene in order to help the white female out.
Yes.
You know, or something. But then, on the other hand, the white female is also considering herself a part of the establishment, like in the slave plantation. The white female was abused by the white male, but if the black servant, the black female, who is the maid in the house, even talked back to the lady of the house. Now, wait a minute. All right, who's in charge here?
Okay.
And say, well, I just, Miss Alice, I stood up for you yesterday when Mr. George was talking to you in an abusive fashion, and now you're talking to me in an abusive fashion. Say, yeah, but you're the maid.
Wow.
You are a Negro. You are a subordinate.
Yes.
You have nothing to do with the royal family's arguments.
Yes.
Don't get it mixed up, Hattie. All right? Don't get it mixed up. You are still a subordinate in our house. I mean, you know, hey, it's one thing, in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists always let black people know, I'm not only in charge of you,
Yes.
in charge of everything that you claim is yours, including what you say is your woman,
Yeah.
Negro boy. You know, you
Yeah.
say you got a wife. You ain't got nothing except what I say you have. You don't have a wife. You don't have children. You don't have anything. Why? Because I got you.
Wow.
All right?
Yeah.
And don't you ever forget it. I can have your wife in bed with me anytime I want to, and your daughters by your wife. And you know it, and I know it, but you turn a blind eye to it because you know you better.
Yeah.
All right? And that's always been. And that's true in 2017 all over the world.
Yes, sir.
The white supremacists, they manufacture hatred because you have to do that. And you have, if you're going to dominate people and then mistreat them based on that domination and say that these people are eligible. You do admit that the people are really people, but you say they are a breed of people who are eligible to be mistreated. So you have to teach that to your offspring systematically. over a period of time. You drum that into their heads over and over again. And you even drum that into the heads of the people that you're going to mistreat. You teach them, look at yourself in the mirror. You are nothing. You are nothing. You are nothing. You are something to be despised. Anything that looks like you, including your mother and your father and your neighbors, if it looks like you and it's moving around on this planet, you should despise it. Why? Because it is worthy of being despised. Why? Because it is dark. That's why. And anything in the form of a person that has dark skin should be despised. Say amen, boy. Say amen, girl, behind what I just told you. Anything that looks like it might be, just might be, in the form of a person, but that person has dark skin. The darker, the more that person or that thing that looks like a person is supposed to be despised. And by it being despised, you let it exist, but you let it exist with the understanding that it's supposed to be mistreated. If you tell it to do something and it doesn't do it, and it begins to run away from you, you shoot it. It's It's a thing. It's even something that you can't even describe as being on the level of a dog. Because after all, I mean, you know, a dog does have some type of proportionate something that you can value. But this thing in the form of a person that you call a black person, you don't know what that is, except it's something you're supposed to if you are classified as white, and even if you're classified as black, you are supposed to despise that thing and not only express it in words every now and then, not so much in the modern days, but you certainly express it in your actions toward it. Put it last on your list of things that are supposed to be given any kind of constructive consideration. And this is the society that we're in, worldwide. And that's another thing. Stop talking about in the Northwestern Hemisphere. This is worldwide, always has been. White supremacy is everywhere. There's no place you can go where it doesn't reign supreme. That's what it means by supreme. That's everywhere, in every area of activity. Economics, they control it. If there's any people of color calling themselves having some kind of economic system that's not subject to the white supremacists, you're fooling yourself. Education, they hoard all the knowledge and have you come to them to get it. They have it set up like that. And they tell you how much of it you can get. And not only that, if you're a person of color, they tell you what you can use it for and what you better not use it for. And they got the muscle to back it up. And then that's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And if you have color in your skin, they dominate your movements in all of these areas of activity, truth be told. Well, to the extent that the white supremacists has anything to do with anything that black people do, they do things that are harmful to black people. That's the answer. The prisoners of war are supposed to be harmed the way that they think. You got color in your skin, you are eligible to be dominated and mistreated. That's what you are born for. That's what they are taught. I mean, it's not even personal. It's just built into the system of government, world government, that if a person has color in his or her skin, in every area of activity, find a way, if you're white, if you're classified as white, have been, quote unquote, fortunate enough to have been born white, part of your duties, one of your main duties, is to walk around on the face of this earth, and if you encounter, either deliberately or just incidentally, people of color, particularly people classified as black, as the non-white people, you are automatically supposed to think of a way, regardless of whatever else you're thinking about. If you are classified as white, you're supposed to automatically say, yon goes a person with color in his or her skin. Now, as a duty, as a white person, it is my duty to kind of figure out a way to get over there where that black person is and figure out a way that you can do some type of harm to that person. Period. That's the way they are taught. That's the way we all are taught. Black people are taught to treat each other that way. By whom? Directly, indirectly, through the books and all like that, and through the use of the word dark and black, and the way the word is used, that is outlined in the code book, in the word guide, and in the basic textbook. The way the word has been used, dark or black, something evil, something, that, hey, what is that? Throw rocks at it. Stop it from moving. And if you're not going to stop it from moving it, watch it while it moves and see if it does anything that you can find a way to disapprove of, and then take action against it. Now, when you see yourself that way, you're seeing yourself the way that the white supremacists and most white people on this planet have been taught from birth to react at the sight of a person who has color. The darker, the more foreboding, the more Halloween, the more Walking Dead, the more ghoulish, the more grotesque. That thing is something that brings horror, something that is a terrorist, something evil. They're taught that. So you're supposed to understand that. All right?
Claude Anderson, he recently said, it was almost a mind-blowing point. Claude Anderson said that when black people kill black people, we're actually emulating white people.
Absolutely. I mean, he's not the only one to say that. I mean, hundreds of books have been saying, I've been saying it. I mean, and black people know that. Black people get up in the morning, a lot of black teenagers all over the world now, and particularly in the Northwestern Hemisphere, it's completely self-evident. This is what all the locks on the doors are about. This is why walking down the street is dangerous. It's because we have got black people walking around all day long looking for an excuse, because we're trying to, particularly black males and a growing number of black females, looking for a way to prove that we are somebody. And the way that we do that is you do harm to another person of color. Find somebody that looks just like you and try to, hey, I'm going to get all over that thing. I'm going to kill that thing. I mean, that thing shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't be here, but I ain't got nerve to kill myself, so I kill him because he looks like me. That's a reflection of me. That reminds me of me, and I can't stand myself, so why could I stand him? And that's why we kill each other by the bushel all over the world as we're speaking right now. And we call it tribalism. We give it all kind of names. Well, you ain't a member of my gang. Yes, you are. You're all fellow prisoners, that's all. But you got prison gangs, all right? And the warden says, well, hey, let them kill each other. I mean, hey, less burden on the taxpayer. We're tired of running ambulances for these Negroes. Now, if I understand the question, have I been harassed
Yes.
because of my book? No, I haven't. What
Okay.
has happened is I've been ignored. So I say, yes, I've been harassed in that way. See, the white supremacists are very shrewd. When they believe that, and this is just my belief, when they believe you're right on point and that they're allowing you to be on point, the first thing they do is not pay attention to you. And that's anybody, not just me. They pay attention to who's listening and seeing if anybody is listening and acting on what you're saying. And if they check that out and see that nobody is acting on it, because nobody really understands what you're doing or not interested in what you're doing or what you're saying and not acting on what is being said, that's the main thing. They look for the action. They don't care about the theories. You can have all the theories you want to. You can stand and make speeches all day. I mean, every day. You know, they don't care. What they do is what's going to be the result. So far, they have looked at the results of my work, and they say, nobody's paying any attention to him. So we won't mention him, and the other people are not mentioning what he's doing or his book, which is what it is. It's not about him. It's what he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's acting on it. So what? In other words, it's just like any criminal enterprise. If nobody's chasing us, if people are talking about we are doing stuff we shouldn't be doing, but nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's, they have analyzed it, and they talk about it. They say we're running this criminal operation, whatnot, called white supremacy, but it's not taking any effect. Our slaves still go about doing what they always do, just get up in the morning and try to entertain each other. That's mostly what black people do, entertain each other and whatnot. So everything is, business as usual. We're right on course. We don't worry about nobody like Neely Fuller or nobody else. Doesn't make any difference who it is. Luther King and whatnot, I mean, he got to be a problem, all right? So when like in any criminal operation, see, when something gets to be a problem, maybe we have to whack somebody. Maybe we have to take care of somebody. We have to put a hit on somebody. And we'll put a hit on, and we got different ways of putting hits on people. I mean, we just let Marcus Garvey just, go back to Jamaica and die quietly after he started his steamship line. He thought he was on a roll. He had people marching in the streets and whatnot back in the old days and all like that, talking about Negro improvement, whatnot. But he died a broken person, and we saw to that. And, okay, you got another one coming up? Okay, Malcolm X or whomever, we'll be ready for him too. I mean, we know when to knock them down, okay? We don't like to put hits on it, like Solazzo said in the movie The Godfather, I don't like blood, Tom. Blood is a big expense, all right? In other words, it attracts too much attention and whatnot. So we don't want to beat up black people in the street, not in the refinement stage. A lot of us do, but some of us that get out of line, even the white supremacists put them in their place. So you're bad for business.
Yes.
You're around here, yelling the N-word all up and down the street. You don't want to do that. We're trying to be refined. We got a smooth operation here. We got these black people eating out of our hands. We got them doing all kinds of stupid stuff. That's what we want them to do. Be devoted to stupidity 24/7. And we got generations of them now, a couple of generations, maybe 3 or 4, just devoted to wholesale stupidity. Just walking around doing stupid stuff all day long, worshiping stupidity. That's the way we want them. And you around here calling them the N-word, you're going to make them get smart. We don't want no smart black people nowhere on this planet. So even though you're white, we're going to put a hit on you if you keep doing it. And they do that. They kill each other. They think nothing of it if you're bad for business. And you're white.
Okay.
I mean, hey, don't run around here calling these people the N-word when I got them working for me for nothing. And then you're going to stir them up if they notice that I'm using that kind of language about them, they might start noticing other things I'm doing to them. The usual suspects, the white supremacists. The white supremacists have to come up with ways of having people, their subjects, tame at all times, just like you tame animals, or you train animals to be tame when you're around, and to go crazy when you're not around, and turn on each other, like dog fights. And that's what black people do in all the cities. You can see that. I mean, trying to run up the murder rate. Black people wake up in the morning and stick, young black males put their 9mm, down in their sock and around their waistband, and have one down in their cargo pants. Might have 3 guns, okay? And they feel powerful enough to do what? To make trouble for themselves, and certainly to make havoc with other people that look exactly like them. All of the boys that they went to school with and all like that, hunting each other down. This is their full-time job. In order to do what? Shoot at each other. Why? Because somebody put that in a video game and it looked cool. Not stopping to think, now is this the most constructive activity I can contribute to my 17 years of existence on this planet? My 34 years of existence on this planet? Is this all I can think about? Is there anything else anywhere on the planet or in the universe that I can think about that would make some kind of sense other than doing this? And then the females going around finger popping and chewing gum and looking wide-eyed and bumping into things, and then, well, hey, this is life, and this is what I choose to do, and this is the greatest thing that ever was or ever will be, is being a member of the Bad Girls Club. So, what is this all about? It's all according to the white supremacist plan. That's what it's all about. And it's supposed to be what? Falling under the category of what? Non-constructive activity. And then the white supremacists, who are not engaged in overall in constructive activity, because everything they do is just about dominating and mistreating people based on color. That's their whole reason for breathing. If black people look like they're getting to the place they don't much like cocaine, we'll come up with something else. We got about 15 dozen other items that we can feed them, and they're always looking for something new. Under the system of white supremacy, you can expect these things. These things are to be expected. Now, you can expect when they start out, to the extent that the white supremacist has anything to do with it. See, I can't say, according to the code, I cannot say that the Virginia or the North Carolina legislature and the people who are doing this by name, I can't name the people who are doing this and call them racist. I will say that if it has anything to do with non-white people that is detrimental, then whomever the racists are, even if they're on the moon, they are to blame if it is somehow detrimental. If it's somehow non-constructive, you always blame the white supremacists for anything that happens in the system of white supremacy that shouldn't happen. So if people are being drugged up like this, the black people don't know anything about drugs. We've said that like for ages. Cocaine and all like that, we didn't know anything about that. We didn't know how to use it in a detrimental way on a grand scale like the white supremacists have done. So if they have come up with new types of drugs, and they probably have hundreds of types and hundreds of different variations of detrimental drugs, which are just chemicals, by the way. They can mix and match them and whatnot in a laboratory and whatnot, and say, let's go try this on the black people. Okay, well, let's try drug A, and then we'll try drug Q 5 years down the road. Now, when we try them out, we'll get them hooked on it, then we will condemn them for being hooked on it, and then we'll tell them that they are unfit, antisocial, and therefore disqualified for the job. And then we'll go to the next stage saying that, you know what, since you're so drugged up, and your children are so drugged up, and everybody you know is so drugged up, you all come in next Thursday. And I'm not going to punish you because, after all, you are sick. But since you are a bunch of sick people, and you're kind of worthless, really, because you're unreliable on account of these drugs that you have chosen to take, thinking that will solve all your problems, and it just made a whole lot more problems. But you all come in, and I'll have mercy on you, and I'll just see to it that you don't have any offspring. So that'll be the next drug I'll give you. Come in, and all you dark-skinned people come in here and get sterilized, because you're not going to do anything but produce a whole bunch of worthless children. And that's already been proven. You yourself say that your children are worthless. You even express how much they're worthless by, if I turn my back as your master for 5 minutes, you start killing each other. That's all you know what to do with each other. You don't know how to do anything with each other but kill each other and call each other names all day. You're constantly searching for newer and better names to call each other. You want to fight on the buses. You want to fight on the streets. So I'm just going to sterilize a bunch of you.
Wow.
And I'll be doing you a favor. And again, by definition, according to the compensatory code, is a victim of white supremacy. That's the logical definition of the word, again, a person who is in a status of victimization. So when I'm calling, again, I'm being called correctly when you give it that definition. It's an accurate term. A victim of white supremacy. You can't be, again, without being a victim of white supremacy. That's the only logical definition. The term itself doesn't have a definition. But if you give it one, that would be the logical definition. Being black does not make you, again, you have to be black and a victim of white supremacy. That qualifies you for, again, hood.
Can you be just a non-white person?
Non-white person, again, if they're victims of white supremacy. A victim, again, is a victim of white supremacy. You have to be non-white to be that. Black, non-white, it's all the same thing. The process of victimization means you become victimized by the white supremacists. That's how you become a nigger. You have to go through the process of victimization.
Replacing white supremacy with justice should correct that reorganization process?
It would eliminate, again, you know, it wouldn't be no such thing as a nigger. It's just like saying that a prisoner is no longer a prisoner. See, let's substitute the word prisoner for, again, and again for prisoner. You're a prisoner of the system of white supremacy. Once you're no longer a prisoner, you're no longer, again, within the context of racism. Black people who are on some other planet are not, again, they're not subject to white supremacy, because white supremacists don't even know where they are. They're not subject to them. If it's some planet out there, a billion so-called light years away, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of miles on some other planet that nobody knows nothing about, and the people are non-white, purple people, green people, black people, whatever. They're not, again, they're not subject to racism. You have to be subject to racism to be, again, racism in the form of white supremacy. That's the purest definition you can get for the word. Otherwise, the word is meaningless. It has no meaning except within that context. Actually, black people shouldn't get angry when a white person calls them that.
Why?
That's a very functional definition, because all they are doing is acknowledging that they are mistreating you. But we have to give it that definition. the reason the word itself has such potency and has lasted so long is because it doesn't have a definition at all. And you can make up any word and then call somebody by that name, the word that you are using. And it will make the person angry if the word does not have a definition. Just put together any combination of letters and make a new word, and then go around calling somebody that consistently. You can drive the person crazy if you don't give the word a definition. That's all you have to do. That's the one thing you don't do. Don't give the word a definition, but always apply the word to that person. Just on an experiment, you can do that. You can do that on a job, around people that you know. Just pick out one person and call that person that name. A name that you never heard before, the name that the person never heard before. But you say it applies to that person, but you don't give it a definition. You don't say it means the same as a goat, or the same as a monkey, or the same as a rabbit, or the same as the sky or a tree. It has no definition at all. But you call this person that. Every time you get angry with them or something like that, every time, you call them by that name, you can drive the person crazy because they don't know what you're calling them. That's the key. It's supposed to be something terrible, but you don't know what it is. And that's what they have done with the word again. The word again has no definition. Most people hadn't even noticed that. Most dictionaries will say, again, the word again is a derogatory term for a person who is a Negro, black, person of African descent. But the key term here is derogatory. But the key element in that word, derogatory, is they don't tell you why it's derogatory. And that's what gives the word its power. If the question is, do white people now fear, the white supremacists fear genetic annihilation? I don't think so. Not now. That's why I call them white supremacists. See, once you get in a supreme position, you don't fear any annihilation, except if it looks like you're losing your power. Then you have that fear. Now, up to now, they haven't displayed where they fear that they're losing that power, even though I believe that they are losing some of it, but gradually. But as of now, they're right on top of the situation. So they're just trying to maintain what they already have. Now, I base that premise on, if it came right down to it, they would have to make a decision. If they intend to retain this power that they have, which they now have, they have to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to do justice, in which case they do make themselves vulnerable to genetic annihilation. But I would say if the black people are intending to replace white supremacy with justice, then they don't have it. They shouldn't have that fear, but they still might have it. But if they believe that black people will not do the correct thing, in other words, they believe that black people do not believe in justice themselves, then they have another option, and that is to kill all the black people, which they can do. There's nobody that's going to stop them, because nobody cares. Not even black people care, if they tell the truth. Individual black people care, but generally speaking, black people don't really care what happens to black people, because black people kill each other every day in large numbers and think that it's fun. That's the truth, because the white supremacists have programmed us that way. In fact, we think that it's cool, particularly black males. Killing black males is almost a rite of passage. As far back as I can remember, right up until this day, it's been passed on. That is a ingrained a part of black culture. It's more of a part of black culture than anything else. Black people killing and mistreating other black people is a part of black culture. If you want a definition for black culture, that's just about it. So the white supremacists have no problem with that, because they will be killing us and we'll be killing each other. So if they wanted to annihilate us at all, it would be a piece of cake. It would be a piece of cake. But there's a problem with it. Over the period of time that the white supremacists have been in business, they've become accustomed to it. Now, accustomed to what? To practicing white supremacy. And what is the purpose of white supremacy now? According to logic, from at least my viewpoint, and studies and observations, it's white supremacy. They're not after land, they're not after money, they have all of that. The idea of white supremacy is a value within itself. That's what they're riding on now. Now, if they kill all of the black people, then they're no longer white supremacists. And then they will have no longer a reason for existence, because they have made that their reason for existence. All of their movies, all of their folklore, everything that they do, every move that they make, proves that white supremacy is their reason for wanting to breathe, even wanting to get up in the morning. White people become lazy, really, when they are not, they don't have that adrenaline rush of practicing racism in one form or another. That's what keeps them going. That's what makes them get up real early before anybody else gets up. If they don't have that, they have no incentive hardly to do anything. Now this is based on evidence. Even when they talk about going into outer space, they are looking for people. What people? Well, their folklore tells us, look at Darth Vader, Darth Invader. Back in the 1930s, it was Flash Gordon looking for the clay people. Clay people meaning people made out of mud. That was in the 1930s. So it's always this thing, this driving force of racism. That's what keeps them going. That's their adrenaline. That's their cocaine. And if they can't have that, they don't see any point in being here. They have done everything else. All of the inventions. They could feed the whole world if they wanted to, with a snap of a finger. They don't want to do that. They like seeing people suffer. If the people are dark, they like to keep that pot stirred, like to keep it going. They cannot deny this. In fact, they brag about it. Turn on any television set, that's what they're bragging about. They like to tear up things, build things up to tear them up. They know how to build things better than anybody. But they like death. They like to see things die. Even when they nurse everything back to health, and they know how to do that. They like to kill it all over again. It's a perversion of what the universe is supposed to be about. And that's why we are having this conversation, presumably, that we need a better system. Got a wonderful planet here if we treat it correctly and treat each other correctly. But the white supremacists, as long as we have that doctrine, we won't be able to do anything that But then you have a huge number of white people who say, yes, let's keep it, but let's make it look like it's not what it is. And let's stay on that course. Let's be deceptive. Let's be hypocritical. Let's all get on the hypocritical wagon. Let's all smile when we're in pain and keep up the front. That's the best way of the future. because we'll have more stability that way and less unrest. Keep these black people confused and robotized and walking around not knowing what to do and what not, what's going. Keep them ignorant so that they don't even know what's going on or who's running things and really don't even care too much. Keep them in that state of mind. Because if we do it the old-fashioned way of just letting them know that, hey, white supremacy is here to stay forever, then they'll be angry and upset and we'll have more problems. Yes, black people knew. Black people know that they want something different from what they're used to. They don't know too much about what it is, but they do know that they want something different in all areas of activity. They certainly want more money and a roof over their heads and what they would call a better life without being able to define what that would mean, because black people have never been put in a situation where they had a whole lot of leeway for making these decisions. Decisions were always made for the victims of racism. The victims of racism have been in prison, just like people have been in prison for like forever. If you give them a little leeway and say, okay, well, you can go out into the prison yard now where you've been locked and confined to a cell. I mean, they say, okay, well, I can go out in the prison yard. Yeah, I'm with that. That's something different. I'll do anything that's different from what I'm doing, because I definitely don't like what I'm doing now. And so let me out into the prison yard. But I have a question. Once I get into the prison yard, what do I do out there? I mean, give me something. Give me a value system. Give me something, that I think that makes sense. Or something, even if it doesn't make sense, just give me something different, because I'm tired of doing what I'm doing. Now, I think that's the state of mind that black people have always been in, for the most part, because we've never been allowed to be in any other state of mind. Just give me something different. We don't care what it is. Let's all smile when we're in pain. To have black males do what they have been doing as far back as I can remember, going back to the days of the conch, the fries. I mean, putting lye in your hair and whatnot, trying to make it straight and all like that. The black male, the white supremacists look at the black male and says, "Oh, you begin to get a little bit of intelligence in your head. Well, I'm going to take up all of your time now, trying to train you to forget about putting something in your head. I'm gonna train you to worry about what looks like on your head. And so I'm going to concentrate on always having you just be absorbed, both black males and black females, with your hair. That's going to be your project in life. You're not going to be able to go to school. You're not going to be able to take care of anything. I mean, you're not going to be able to pay your bills because you are sitting up day and night making a hair plan, making blueprints for your hair. This is what you dark-skinned people should be doing. While we are making bullet trains and new airplanes and going under the bottom of the ocean and all like that, you are sitting in front of a mirror getting carried away about what type of rubber band to put on your hair to control it. And I will provide the rubber bands at a price. See, so that hair thing has always been a big thing with black people, particularly in the Northwestern Hemisphere and other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in other words, hey, you don't have time to go to school. You better get out here in the streets and do something about your hair. I mean, your hair is everything. I mean, your hair is your entire life. Don't worry about food and clothing and all like that, and trying to make some money and trying to get something in your head. Forget about something in your head. Worry about what's on your head. And if it's not hair, I'll put some hubcaps on your head and charge you $500 a hubcap and whatnot, because you don't know what to put on your head, not to say anything about what is in it. You know why? Because I've made you into some type of creature. You're not even a being that comes anywhere close to being what you could call a human being. You things. You throw away things. You're not even people. At one time I said that you weren't people. You were property. And that's basically what you are now. You're my property. So go on down there and sit in front of the mirror. I'll provide the mirror. I'll provide the hair oil. I'll provide the combs. And you sit there while I'm running the entire universe, and you fuss with your hair and make a great big deal out of it. You can't get to work in the morning on account of you got to get your hair fixed. You got to see that your braids are in place. And you got to look around for some type of baling wire to put around all that stuff that's hanging down there, almost dragging to the ground behind you. Because that's a priority for you people, because I don't want anything going on in your head, ever.